that was replicating it. Justine Azaric is a spokesperson that I use for a lot of stuff. She's a video blogger. She basically spends her life being a Vanna White online. And thank God I had met her well before she was like famous, so she wasn't charging us an arm and a leg at that point. This is an example of her going. She was one of the first people to get an iPhone, and when she got the iPhone in the mail, her bill in the mail for the first month, the bill was over 300 pages front and back. And so here's an example of what social media can do for you in a negative way from a brand reputation management standpoint. Let's see if that's gonna play. And this is actually with a point and shoot camera. It's not even a video camera. It just happened to take video. So the point here is that you don't necessarily use social media just to sell widgets, but if you are working for an NGO or you're trying to do something for a nonprofit, it can be terribly effective in rallying a lot of people to a cause and affecting change in a way that's much quicker and on a much larger scale than you could ever imagine if you went on it alone. Even if you had a large budget for a PR firm and went out there and did a bunch of traditional advertising through a PR firm. The example here is that if anybody in this room had called up AT&T or called up Verizon or their phone company and said, the bill's kind of excessive, 300 pages, oh my God, because what they were doing, they were itemizing all the stuff on the bill, and she gets several thousand text messages a day because she's got a lot of fans. Well, they never gave her the option. They just sent her this huge thing, and her bill was like $70, and the postage on the box was like $8.40. So it was more than 10% of the entire bill was postage for this thing to send to her. So she gets on, Fox and Friends. She gets on, she gets interviewed in USA Today, a bunch of local TV stations. BBC interviewed her. She got all this press for being kind of the Midwestern girl who got the big phone bill, and they've got these cogs from AT&T saying, well, that's just the way we do things. And, well, they look like idiots. So 8 days after that video went live, and to kind of show you what the impact it had on it, she syndicates her stuff on several different video sites, but because of her fan base, they will take her stuff and re-syndicate for her also. But if we look at her account, this is Justine's account. In 1 month, she had gotten 670,000 hits on that one video. Keep on pointing that the wrong way. That's on YouTube. This is on Revver, I think. 450,000 hits in a month. And so if you look at a single episode of something being on cable television and compare that, well, here's the numbers for the top news shows on cable. And so if we look at Justine's numbers, I'm trying to be so cool, she would actually fit into right above a current episode of Britt Hume's special report and a rerun of Bill O'Reilly's Fox News show. She would be in the top 10 in cable news programs for a single episode within 30 days on social media. And so for online marketers, if you can get traction, people will look at that and say, well, Justine, well, who cares? A lot of people watch that's a bunch of garbage. But it's eyeballs. And when we're in advertising and we're selling stuff, whether we're selling a cause or widgets or a service or anything, the currency that we work in is people's attention. She had 1 million people watch videos on 2 video sharing sites alone. That doesn't count the number of times that they showed it on Fox and Friends in the morning, on the BBC, on all these. I mean, imagine the audience those people have. And she's a person who has been approached by traditional media and said, no thanks, I'd rather be in control of my own life. And she won't go and work. I mean, she'll do ads for, I think she does some ads for like Land's End and stuff like that. But she won't go and be like a newscaster or a tech person for traditional media because she just feels like they're just kind of out of touch. And she does very well in advertising. So how do we use her beyond that? So we've already got her, out there. She's got this personal brand. She gets a lot of attention. So we thought, well, what if we went and did a test and kind of brought this full circle, used her online personality, and then created actually a video or a commercial for the web. We went and we created, for a client of mine, X-Train, a series of 20 different videos that were all 10 to 12 seconds each, that were Justine kind of doing her kind of Lucille Ball slapstick silly stuff, but the theme of them are, why do I think geeks are sexy? And so this is what. So that's traditional advertising. That's something funny, a little bit entertaining, strong call to action at the end with a promise of a reward at the other side. I mean, that is advertising 101. And she ended up being, after we started, like I said, we released one a week over 20 weeks, and she ended up being the #1 referrer for X-Train, on top of the chief of creative design for Adobe, who actually came in and did videos for them. They had amazing people doing videos for web design and for web development, and she ended up being the #1 traffic source for X-Train and the #1 seller of videos off X-Train, all from social media background, but applying some of the traditional techniques that we know work in traditional advertising. And you can do that with someone like her because she's got street cred, and she already established herself as being a social media person, so it's not, some unknown person trying to look all hip and street. It's Justine. And her fans already knew who she was and knew that she had established that credibility. So I've got a lot of different things that we can go through here. Basically, our approach was, instead of looking, our tagline is take a different look at search, but we looked at PR a little bit differently. And we've got an amazing team of people that work with us. We knew that we had to go and educate people about what we were doing, so we do a lot of that in social media. And a lot of what I do on Twitter and in blogs is when people talk about Vuzy on the web and they either don't quite get it or they don't like it because there's something that they don't understand, I jump in and say, hey, this is what we're doing. Don't try to push you to like it or not. I just want to explain what's going on there. And then when people go up there and say, hey, it's amazing, best thing since sliced bread, just a simple thanks. Just to say, hey, I'm here. Here's my contact information. Thanks for having a look. I'm going to go through this. This is the how it works stuff, which you've already seen the video, so don't need to have that. So we talked about views and we talked about video. And we can't ignore the fact that email is still the #1, the strongest online thing you can do to get results back from people. So don't be afraid to go back and use old tools like email. I mean, and I write them myself. They probably got typos in them. But we've got over 15,000 people in our beta program. So whenever something happens, I send emails out to them, and then they can go and comment on that in their own blogs if they want to. Outside of the things I showed you, I mean, these are some of the kind of other hits. I mean, VentureBeat covered us and had some good stuff to say. Webware is Rafe Needleman from CNET. Mashable is, not traditional media, huge blog, but amazing traffic that comes from someone like Mashable when they cover you. And then, of course, Twitter. I mean, we get several comments a day through Twitter, and if we release something new, we'll get several dozen, that we can go. And on these, I'll go through Twitter search, and I save every single one of these because, A, it gives me a record of who's talking about us where, and I've hit my Twitter limit, so I can't follow everybody anymore, which kind of sucks. But it allows me at least to go back, and if we see a thread of the same kind of thing that people are having issues with, I take it to the product team and say, hey, look, people are continually having this issue. We need to fix it, and I need to be able to tell people when it's going to be fixed. Blah, boring. Get to the good stuff. So for me, when I used to do that, I'm going to get to my manifest here. Essentially, before I went to Vuzy, I'd spent a lot of time creating what I call the social media manifest. And what it is, it's my playbook for what I do. It's about a 30-page document. It's bits and pieces of other people's information. I didn't sit down and write this from scratch. I went and I found all this information of what the best practices were and took one person's project